Well, hey there. I would say, hey friends, this is actually a more direct video. This is for Gregory Abbott, not that he's ever going to see it, our beloved Texas governor. So, I got a little story for you, Mr. Abbott, Mr. Governor. I've been doing everything that I can do since the beginning of the pandemic to attempt to remain safe and keep those that I love safe. But I work in food service, so that's extremely difficult. We wear masks, of course. We wash our hands constantly. And yet, there are people who can come into our establishment without masks because even though we as a business have a choice to not allow those people, we have received violent threats on our employees' lives trying to ask people to wear masks. So the company said for our safety, we can request that people wear masks, but we cannot force them and we cannot tell them to get out. Simple enough. So we figured that the mask mandate would at least help a little bit with that if it came from a higher power, a government instead of just a business, that people would be more willing to respect that mandate. But you decided to strip that mandate away, to free Texas from the tyranny of masks, despite the fact that at that time, roughly 6% of Texans were vaccinated. And that did not include food service workers like myself, who are otherwise healthy but are on the front lines where people are coming up to us with no masks. We're extremely busy, despite the fact we're only at half capacity. Some people will come in and decide that they don't want to listen to that. So we will be jam-packed full with virtually no good way to enforce mask regulations or social distancing in our store. So it's really as if nothing changed. Now we're still at 50% because we don't care what Texas is at. We're trying to keep our people safe. And yet, the other day I went and I got a COVID test before a very important surgery that I've been waiting about 5 years to obtain. Lo and behold, my test is positive. Now, I'm very fortunate because I don't have any symptoms except for body aches, fatigue, and a little bit of congestion. But I had to cancel my surgery. An elective surgery that I've been waiting 5 years for. Now, this may not mean a whole lot to you. I don't know your personal stance on it, but I know how your constituents feel about it. I used to work with them in the public. It's a top surgery. I'm a transgender man, so that has been something that I've been trying to obtain for 5 years now, to be more at home in my own body. And it's been canceled because I've got corona. Now, I've been doing everything that I can short of staying in my room and never leaving. I don't go anywhere except for work and home. I always wear a mask. I do everything that the CDC recommends. And I know that the words of the CDC don't seem to mean a whole lot to you, because you are far more concerned with saving your political image after the disastrous way that you responded to the Texas freeze. You tried to blame it on green energy, despite the fact that the real culprit was not winterizing the energy industry, even though environmental activists have been telling you to do this. Well, not you specifically, of course, but have been telling these industries to do this for a very long time, and it never happened. Now, the responsible thing to do would be to admit that something went wrong, but you didn't do that. You didn't actually attack the reason why this happened, which was some bogus idea of Texan independence, which is really just a way to save some money, because it costs money to winterize. I understand that. I'm no stranger to how the economy works. I'm no stranger to how money works. But I also understand that more damage is done by not doing the right thing the first time. And some of that damage comes in the form of the confidence of your constituents. Myself being one, I certainly didn't vote for you, as we have very, very different political beliefs, and that's fine. Back then, my only dislike of you was purely just that I didn't agree with your political opinions, which is a perfectly fine thing to do. I work with people whose political opinions I disagree with, and we get along famously. We're the best of friends. Because I can see that their values are similar to mine, that they care about people, they care about their families, they care about workers, they care about the strength of not only our economy, but our conviction in each other. They care about their communities. They care about their kids or their future kids. They care about their schools, their roads being top quality, and so do I. I care about all these things. But you have shown through your actions that you would much rather deflect the blame, and removing the mask mandate is not only extremely ill-advised, but also comes at a very curious time when you are trying to save yourself from dipping in the public eye, which I find very curious because this was not an action that was informed based on any sort of scientific guidelines. This was not an action that was done out of confidence that Texas was ready to reopen. Because if we were ready to reopen, we wouldn't only have 6% of our people vaccinated. And the reason that the hospital numbers that you cited have been down is precisely because we've been doing everything we can to limit exposure. And you chose to remove that, to remove those protections. So I urge you in these next coming weeks to pay very, very close attention to what's going to happen, to how many new cases there are going to be. I'm one of them. Hi. And that shouldn't have happened. It's not a coincidence that after you removed the mask mandate, we had at least a 50% increase in people coming into our store with no masks. I counted. And it's no coincidence that knowing this, I caught it despite doing everything that I could to prevent exposure. And it's no coincidence that this happened right around the time of spring break when everyone's really itching to get out there. Now, I don't blame you personally for not being able to go get surgery. That would be ridiculous. I don't even blame you for getting the coronavirus. I can't blame a single person for that. There's a system in place that has failed Texans, that has failed the average person like me, that has failed, my coworker's husband who passed from it, that has failed my roommate's brother who ended up in the hospital because of it. Perfect bill of health otherwise, until COVID. And I'm not blaming you for each individual because to do that would be asinine and would be to miss the point. But you, sir, are part of a system. And that system goes back many, many years. But that system is dedicated to giving maximum benefit to the owners of big businesses and big industries and minimal benefit to the people working for those. Minimal benefit for the average person, the average Texan, so to speak, which you claim to care about. And yet, instead of admitting fault, you tried to open up the state. Instead of walking back, manning up, and admitting that mistakes were made and that we could have handled the Texas freeze better by winterizing our industry beforehand, as had been told many times, you decided to deflect the blame. And that, to me, is dishonorable. It's unbecoming of a public official. It's unmanly. You may ask what I would know about manliness. Well, I wasn't born one. I had to do a couple things to get there. But I think I know a thing or two more than you. So I'd like you to think about that. Have a good day.